Boom! What up, y'all? Welcome to the Kenny Parker Show. We do this every Tuesday and Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Spook Round 4Q, you are first in the building. What's going on? And Spook Round says assault that like button, please. It helps the algorithm. And buy the book. My brother's name is Kenny. The link is in the description below. Haitian Space Program, what up? Jump right in with the question and see, now this is going to make me fall behind and then y'all going to try to diss me. But I like this question. Question, Kenny, what sports teams from the past did you hate but now have respect for? Mine is Bad Boy Pistons. Well, I still hate the Bad Boy Pistons, by the way. I didn't particularly have teams that I didn't like, but I had players. For example, Reggie Miller. I do not like Reggie Miller at all as a Knicks fan. He is one of my least favorite opponents of all time with all of his antics. However, I have tremendous respect and fear for Reggie Miller. He was super clutch, super tough, mentally. He, outside of Michael Jordan, he might be one of the biggest Knicks villains ever. I mean, Jordan was a villain. People cheered for Jordan to do well, but they wanted the Knicks to win. Reggie Miller is just a villain all the way around. I do not like Reggie Miller, but I have tremendous respect for his game and his toughness and his clutchness. I'm trying to think off the top of my head because it's probably basketball related. That was my sport. I can't think of a player who I disliked. I never loved Karl Malone. But of course, he's an all-time great, first ballot Hall of Famer, so the respect level is there. I just never cared for him that much. I don't like guys who try to act tough. And I really don't like guys who try to act tough in today's era. There's guys who act tough in today's era that would be hiding in the locker room in the 80s and 90s, in my opinion. I'm not going to say any names there. I'm going to leave it at that. There's probably a few, like if I really thought hard about this, like I said, there's no teams I don't like, but there's individuals. But I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to move on, but that's a great question. I would love to revisit that question. I'd have to think about that. Papa Sincere says, peace KP, listen to the KRS and Dougie Fresh joint the other day, waiting for the backstory. For those of you that didn't get a chance to watch the live from Friday, I mentioned that somebody asked the question, did we ever do a show, BDP ever do a show with Rakim and Dougie Fresh? And I answered many times. And then I said, matter of fact, I had a cassette somewhere of KRS and Dougie Fresh on stage. And I said, if you guys want to hear it, I'll dig it up. So I went digging. It took me a minute, but I found the cassette and I digitized it, put it up. I just put it up a couple of days ago for those that didn't get a chance to check it out. The backstory is this. We had a show in Atlanta for a private it was a private event for a company called Tag Team. Like Tag Team was the name of the organization that was putting on the show, but it was just for this company. It was called Tag Team. And when we got there, ready to do the show, we did sound check, everything. Just when we were about to go on, Dougie Fresh was in the audience. Not in the audience, it was backstage. So he's like, oh, Dougie in the building. So Chris was like, yo, you want to come up? And he's like, yeah, I'll come up and if you want me to come up and rock. So he's like, hell yeah. So it just so happens that at that time, I used to rock 2 SP1200s on stage. So my stage setup was 2 turntables, a DAT machine, and 2 SP1200s. And I would go back and forth between the 3 different setups depending on what we did. So I used to throw on like classic break beats during the show. So one of the beats that I happened to play during the show to get the crowd rocking was Keep Rising to the Top, the original one from Kenny Burke. So I had that in the drum machine. So it just so happens that Dougie's biggest solo hit was also called Keep Rising to the Top. So I was like, oh, there go Dougie. So as soon as I see him come out, I'm going to throw this beat on. So now when you listen to the tape, what I did was I edited the very beginning, the intro when we first walked out, and then Dougie comes out probably 35 minutes into the show. So I just cut out the middle parts and just connected the intro so y'all can get a feel of the beginning, and then I brought in Dougie. So if you can hear KRS' voice is a little bit hoarse in the recording, that's because we've been rocking for about 35, 40 minutes by the time Dougie comes on. And so we bring Dougie on, and him and Chris, and it was all unplanned. Everything you hear, I think they rocked for about 15 minutes. Everything you hear was right off the top of the head. We had no idea. I was just rocking the beats. Chris, shout out to the late, great Willie D of BDP. And it was Chris, Willie D, Dougie, and me. And we just made up 15 minutes of rocking, and the crowd loved it. And it was dope. So those that got a chance to check that out, please, if you didn't get a chance, check that out. And that is the backstory. If I can remember, it was in Atlanta, and the year was 1997. But KRS and Dougie has performed many times. We did many shows with Dougie and Rakim. I wish I had took the time out to record these things. I don't know what made me record this particular show, but I made a cassette of it. And obviously I can't play the songs the rest of the show because of copyright, but I could play that part, and I didn't get flagged. All right. Gregory Netta says, yo, Kenny, I saw the KRS One, Dougie Fresh. You just posted. It's awesome. You actually lost a lot of weight. Yeah, I did from back in the day. And Dougie Fresh doesn't get the respect he deserves. I can agree with that. Let me try to catch up. Rod Justice. Marcus Brothers, what up? Says, I'm HBIP's secretary. Oh, word. Here to take notes for the Notorious BIP. Word. What's up, HBIB? Yes, please take notes and tell HBIB the whole family says what's up. Henry Cedillo, what's up? Rod Justice, thanks for sharing the Dougie Fresh. Thanks for listening. James Brown, Buffalo, New York. Abel Valdez. I see a lot of the regulars. Ethan Sutton, haven't seen you in a while, says DJ KP. Do you know about idea and abilities? No, I don't. I have no idea what that is. Zigzag says KRS and Dougie was dope. Thank you. Johnny Walker, what up? John Walker. Let's see. Rosmel, what it do? You guys are talking about old movies. Tales from the Hood, I see somebody mention. I like that. John Walker says, more live recordings. KRS and Dougie was lit. I got some other stuff I could see if I could play that's not actual songs that maybe I have some cassettes. Oh, you know what I found? I was thinking through this box of cassettes. I found the original beat tape that I played KRS-One in 1991 when we were working on the Sex and Violence album. I have the original loops of like We In There, and there's some other beats that I didn't even remember. I was listening to it on a cassette deck. I was going to play it tonight, but I was going to play it in my box, but I forgot to buy batteries when I was outside, so I'm probably going to do it on Friday. Excuse me. Probably on Friday, I'm going to play this beat tape so y'all can hear what I actually played KRS and what the song actually became. I can't believe I still have that beat tape. It says beat tape 1991. I can't wait to show you guys that. That was 34 years ago. Incredible. Patrick Y, what up? Patrick Y says, good evening, KP Tuesday crew. The Valley, home of Wolf Jones. RIP representing. Wolf that was down with Bad Boy. Never met him, but heard a lot about him. Let's see. Let me jump down a little bit. JT, what up? Michael from Mortis, what up? Sydney Rhodes, what up? Jay Doyle, what up? Dre Stack Dollars, what up? Oh, he says, KP, what's good? Did you hear what happened to R. Kelly being overprescribed? Something came across my social media feed today about R. Kelly had an overdose in jail. And I was like, this is BS. And I just, most of the stuff you see on social media is fake news. So I just blew past that. So you're saying that they overprescribed him a prescription drug? Or was he actually had OD'd? Somebody fill me in on that. That would be wild if he OD'd, man. Terrell McMillan, what up? MMA Crossfire, what up? Sweet Goldilocks, hey. CMC, what up? Says Salute Boom, Bat, producer KP. Big up CMC. JT, what up? I see all the regulars in the building. Thank you so much. Village Voices Show. I don't recognize this name. What's good? Rhythm Blues Preservation Society, what's up? Floetry One, what up? Papa's Assistants, man, I hated Reggie Miller and Danny Ainge. I didn't hate Danny Ainge, but I didn't love Danny Ainge. There's a few. I tell you who I hated on the Celtics. ML Carr. ML Carr, I believe, was a good player, a starting player in the 70s. But by the time he got to the Celtics in the 80s, he was basically a bench warmer who used to come in garbage time or come in and commit hard, which would be considered a flagrant foul now. I used to stand on the end of the bench and wave the towel and talk ish. I really, really, really dislike ML Carr. Like, really dislike him. And I don't respect him either. I didn't dislike Danny Ainge. He was here nor there. But ML Carr, I really didn't like. Wow. I just thought about that. I'm really digging with that one. John Dixon says, I can't stand Draymond Green. I might concur. He's going to make the Hall of Fame, too. It's one of them tough guys. And he's a borderline dirty player, too. Never liked Bill Laimbeer either. Bill Laimbeer was a dirty, dirty basketball player. Very good basketball player, good role player. Very important on those championship teams, but he was a dirty player. He was out to hurt people. So I don't respect that. MMA says, how a skinny 6'7", 185-pound guy like Reggie Miller could terrorize the Knicks like that? It's amazing. Because sometimes, you ever heard the expression wiry strong? There's some dudes that's skinny, but they're strong enough. They're deceptively strong. Reggie Miller was always in motion, so it was really hard to put a body on him. He had some big bruiser enforcers. Remember the Davis brothers? Dale Davis, Antonio Davis, setting those picks for him. And he was deadly from the outside. I think Reggie Miller would average 30 points a game today. Reggie Miller was about a 19, 20-point-a-game scorer. I think he would average 30 in today's game. With the freedom of movement, you can't stop a player from moving along the baseline. back in the day, you can, when a player was cutting across that baseline, dudes like Charles Oakley and Barkley and those bruisers used to bump the cutter to slow him down so that the guy who's trailing had time to catch up to him when he came across to shoot the three. You can't do that anymore. They took that out of the game. So when a guy is cutting across, you cannot touch him, which makes guys like Steph Curry even more dangerous because he's running around and you can't slow him down. If Reggie Miller was allowed to run it from baseline to baseline with those Davis boys setting picks and he would get open jumpers, first of all, he'd probably get at least 6 or 7 more looks today than he did back in the day, at least 6 or 7. And I think if he got 7 more looks, he's like 40%. He would make another 3. I think he would have another 3 points, 3 3-pointers per game average in today's game. So if he averaged like 20, I think Reggie Miller would be around 29, 30 points a game right now. And he was mad clutch. Like in the clutch, that dude, he was big time, man. Patrick Wise says KG tried to act tough, but he's soft as the day he was born. KG talk a lot of trash. And in this era where you know nobody can't really hit you, you know, if you throw a punch, even if you miss, it's a 2-game suspension. David Stern cleaned up a lot of the stuff that happened back in the day. Dudes got punched in the face and they just called the tech and dudes stayed in the game. There was straight up brawls and nobody got ejected. Then David Stern said, I'm cleaning all this up. Remember, he came with the rule, anybody leaving the bench, even if you're not involved in the fight, if your foot comes off of the bench onto the court, that's a game suspension. And that cost the Knicks against the Miami Heat one year in the playoffs. And if you throw a punch, even if you miss, I think it's 2 games. And if you connect, forget about it. So now in this day and age, you know dudes can't really throw punches. Most basketball players don't want it anyway. A guy like KG, even in his era was the tail end of that. He could act tough. Draymond Green is a straight menace now. I would love to have seen him in an era with Barkley and Oakley and Xavier McDaniels and Dennis Rodman and these type of guys, Anthony Mason, those front lines, Karl Malone, Kevin Willis. I would love to see that kind of behavior. Even Robert Parrish with those joints, Patrick Ewing. I would love to see Akeem Olajuwon. I'd love to see his antics in an era with those guys. Even a Shaq. I don't know if he would have said all that stuff to Shaq. I agree with you on KG. This is an interesting question. I don't understand it though. Kenny, if you decided to do 10-song complication album, is it a compilation album? What 5 male rappers and what 5 females rappers would you, I guess, pick? I'm assuming you mean compilation. Well, I'm gonna do my top 5 favorite males of all time. Not the best, my favorites. I'm gonna go Redman. I'm gonna say Tribe as one thing. Ice Cube is 3. I'm gonna leave KRS out of it for bias purposes. That's my 3. Probably Big, 4. That's tough because I have a few that I like, but I'm gonna go Big at 4. And either Hove or Nas, maybe. I love Scarface Starr. I would love to throw him in that mix just to throw off the mix a little bit. Face Mob, I would love to have on there. Maybe I'll put Face Mob at 5, even though Jay and Nas would be on there, but I'm gonna throw Face Mob on there just to mess up just to throw the mix off and throw some down south. I'm gonna put Face Mob at 5. And then for the women, I'm gonna put Lauren is gonna rap and sing. Latifah. Missy is 3. Probably Light. That's 4. Because there's a few women that I like them all pretty much evenly. So there's not that many that raise to the top. I'm gonna leave my homegirl Heather B out. Rage. The Lady of Rage. I'm going Rage, Latifah, Lauren, Missy. I said Rage, Latifah, Lauren, Missy, and probably Light. That's probably my 5 women. And I'd make an album, I'd make a compilation out of that, probably. CMC, once again, CMC's Technique in Class, thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. Outside of MJ, the second most dominant player, Hakeem Olajuwon, and still feared throughout the NBA. I would say he's the most dominant of his era. Absolutely. The Dream, I got Dream in my top 5 centers of all time. I'm going Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain for the 60s, Jabbar for the 70s, the Dream for the 80s and 90s, and Shaq for the 2000s. And I'm keeping an eye on Jokic, what he's doing right now, and the way he plays the game. I think the way he plays the game would transcend any era. I'm keeping an eye on him. I don't know who I would bump off. And also Moses Malone is an honorable mention. But the Dream is like, I think he retired all time in blocks and like top 2 or 3 in steals as a center. And like 25,000 points. And he was a great rebounder. Of the modern era, I think he's the best center of the modern era. Well, no, Jabbar is the best center of the modern era. Let me not disrespect the Kareem, but outside of Kareem, it's the Dream. I agree with that. I saw Jordan. They asked Jordan if he had to start 5 players to win it all. To win it all, he said he would go him, Jordan, Magic, Scotty, his teammate Worthy, and Dream. He said that would be his 5. Yo, folks, 3, thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. I really appreciate that. Wow, thank you. So shout out to DJ Kenny Parker. Do you remember your reaction viewing the punch Rudy Tomjanovich received from old boy, meaning Kermit Washington? I forgot his name, Kermit Washington. And what's your favorite Atlantic Star jam? R.I.P. Wayne Lewis. All right, let's dig into this. First of all, I was a little too young to remember the punch with Rudy Tomjanovich, so I didn't see it. I only saw the highlights later on. That punch, and I believe Kermit Washington got in some scuffle, and I don't know if Rudy Tomjanovich was part of it, or he was just getting up, or he was coming to break it up, and Kermit Washington saw him out the corner of his eye and just turned and stole on him. and that punch broke his whole face. He was an intensive kid. That punch almost ended Rudy T. And Rudy T was an all-star. And he was never the same after that punch. And Kermit Washington, I believe, got sued by Rudy T and lost. Kermit Washington was like practically canceled off of that one punch. By today's standards, Kermit probably goes to jail for that. Definitely been thrown out the league. So in answer to your question, I did not see that punch, but I heard about it. Rudy T became a championship coach, but his playing career was never the same. What's my favorite Atlantic Starr jam? Boy, that's a tough one. Either Circles. Wow, because Circles is dope. Secret Lovers, but that was a huge record, but that I'm not gonna pick Secret Lover. I'm gonna go either Circles or Closer Than Close. Circles or Closer Than Close. I'm gonna leave Secret Lover out. There's probably more too, because Silver Shadow was dope. But try to think off the top of my head. I know I'm missing another, so because they had some dope slow jams. Atlantic Starr and SOS Band were dope. Similar groups, really dope in the 80s. And finally, R.I.P. Wayne Lewis. I'm not sure who Wayne Lewis is. Refresh me on that. But thank you so much for the love. And since I've been talking, 59 comments have come in, so I'm really behind. Patrick White says it only took 2 minutes for KP to fall behind. Oh, I'm here at the bottom. I'm all the way at the bottom. How did this happen? 47D says, rest in peace, TC. A few of the 47D, I think there's only like 1 or 2 living members of was still alive. So I got to meet them. I got a funny story with 47Ds. Maybe I'll tell it in a second. JT Circles was my jam. Yes. Oh, Wayne Lewis was the co-founder of Atlantic Starr. Oh, wow. And wasn't there like 2 different girls who sung in Atlantic Starr? I believe there was some controversy with them. And by the way, yes, Ice Cold Beverage, Touch a 4-Leaf Clover, I'm bugging. Forget Closer Than Close. It's either Circles and Touch a 4-Leaf Clover. I knew I was forgetting. When Touch a 4-Leaf Clover is ridiculous. That's in the days when there were groups with different voices in the group. I don't want to start about, do y'all remember what R&B used to sound like? I don't want to start that tonight. We're not. But just the days when the guy would sing and then the girl would sing and then they would both sing to each other. That was real pure R&B. I did not know he passed. Wow, I did not know that. That's tough. Oh, Always was a jam too. Damn, Always was a jam. Atlantic Starr had records, man. I liked When Love Calls. I believe Play Another Slow Jam. That was Atlantic Starr too. Play Another Slow Jam. And you know what's funny? All these records came out within like a 2-year, 3-year period too. Like they was on fire in like 82, 83, 84, 85. They was on fire. Ah, man, you just cut on the radio and all these records would be on. Remember the Quiet Storms? I know they had them in a few cities. They definitely had it in New York. First WBLS, had it, and then 98.7 Kiss kind of copied them. After 10 o'clock, from like 10 to 12 was just all slow jams. Oh, it was dope, man. Wow. I'm going to jump back a little bit because I missed some comments. It says Charles Oakley was hated by other teams. He was a bully. Yes, I heard he was. Kermit almost caught a murder charge. Oh yeah, he almost, yeah, he did. It almost ended Rudy T. Yeah. Patrick Wise says they showed the punch on every news channel. By today's standards, that would be so viral. By today's standards, all kind of politicians would be getting involved. There'd be a congressional oversight committee. They'd bring people, the commissioner of the NBA in. It'd be crazy. Def Rocker said Dream used to play soccer. That's why he was so agile. Yes. And he used to work out with Moses Malone. Moses really took the Dream under his belt. Sam Gervais says, KPR, you still working on the audio book? Yes. I was working on it today. We'll be in the studio tomorrow, finishing up. Then I got to edit down. Yes. I see a lot of mentions of Andrew Toney in here. We talked about Andrew Toney, the Boston Strangler, last week. Tori D says, have you ever worked with MOP? Absolutely. I produced a song with them and on Heather B's album, Taken Mine, called My Kind of Ninja. When Heather was a guest, a very annoying one, Heather was the very first guest on this show. We talked briefly. I think we talked about the making of that song on Heather B's album. There's a video for that song too. So check out the video. It's on YouTube. The video is directed by Omar Epps. Shout out to Omar Epps. I produced that track for MOP. They're good friends. Shout out Billy Dance. Shout out Fame. Shout out Lazy Lays. And rest in peace to the first lady of MOP. What a wonderful woman, Fox. Miss her a lot. I'm gonna scroll down. I'm gonna miss some comments, but now that I'm kind of close up, Riz said Ready for the World was actually my favorite slow jam group of the 80s. I loved Atlantic Starr, loved SOS Band. I loved all the slow jams, of course, Luther and all that, but the real emotional group was Ready for the World, man. Ready for the World was dope. I would pay money to see some of these groups right now, man. Touch of Four Leaf Clover, that was everything. Patrick Wise says, I hear you can't even say Andrew Toney's name in Boston. Yeah. Corey Flex said, Kenny, did Atlantic Starr do Curious? Intimate Connection, baby. Curious? No, that was no, that was not Atlantic Starr. The name of the group escapes me. That was not Atlantic Starr, though. Rosamel says, didn't Karl Malone refuse to play on the Dream Team in 92 because Magic was on the team, or he just came clean about HIV? No, he refused to play in an all-star game. I don't know if he refused, but he was saying he did not want to play in the all-star game because Magic had HIV. And you got to say at that time, that was I don't want to say it to you, that was the end. That was a sentence that was the end. If you had HIV in 1992, Magic was the first person to really beat it. And that famous person to really beat it. Magic was supposed to be out. I'm happy he's not, but I'm just saying, whatever potion that they got, experimental drugs, it worked on Magic. We never even saw Magic sick. He came back and played. He came back and coached. He never lost weight. And Athema says KP was spinning El DeBarge for a slow set. I definitely would spin El DeBarge for a slow set. Absolutely. DeBarge had some great slow records. I love 80s slow jams. Love them. Floji says, yo, Kenny, were you able to release the Karis Dougie Fresh video without getting called for Karis wifey boo? No. They're still in Europe. They should be on their way back from Europe. So maybe he's not aware of it yet. I'll keep y'all posted. But there's no new music on there. If there was new, if it was a new song, it'd be different. There's no new songs on there. So Dre Stack Dollar says, funny story, a possible epic fail with Force MD. It's not an epic fail, but we did a show, I believe it was like a benefit. Everybody did like 3 songs or something. This was in the 90s. I think TC had already passed and a couple of the surviving members. And I was cool with Mercury. Mercury was the first one to pass. He used to be in the clubs all the time. I used to see Mercury all the time in the party. Big up to Mercury. He was mad cool. But a couple of the remaining members of Force MDs, the Force MDs was on the show with us and a few groups. So we in the dressing room, and we had just went on. They was about to go on, so they was gonna go on a little later. We was gonna go out and check them out. Or did they go on before us? I think they went on before us, something like that. And they came in our dressing room and was like, yo, they was like, KRS, yo, BDP, we love BDP. And I'm sitting there going, yo, the Force MDs, yo. And they're looking at me like, and Chris always gets on me about, he calls me a super fan. But if I like somebody and I respect your music, I'm going to tell you, if I see you and I like you and I respect your music, I'm going to say, yo, I really like what you're doing. But I was really excited to see the Force MDs. I had never seen them in person. And they were so busy loving BDP, but I was too busy loving the Force MDs. So they was a little thrown back, like, really? Like, you like us like that? They was almost like, you like us like that? And I was like, are you kidding me? Love Is a House was my, yo, are you kidding me? And we just went back and forth, and it was cool to meet the two, it was like, I think it was 2 surviving members at that time. But yeah, and I met one of their daughters too, about 10 years ago. I met the daughter of one of the members in Jersey too. She's like, my father's in Force MDs. That's crazy. But yeah, that was kind of funny. I was loving them and they was surprised. Like they came in there to like big us up. And I was like, nah, man, Force MDs is real. Tori D says Barbara Weathers is here in Greensboro, North Carolina. Yeah, she was the second singer, the light-skinned one, right? That sung most of the hits. But the one who sings on Circles is a different girl, I believe. And if I recall, there was some controversy. I think I saw Behind the Music or something with them, or Unsung, and it was like beef because like 2 brothers or 2 of them owned the group and everybody else was on like payroll. So you're singing on these big giant records and you're doing these big giant tours, but only a couple people were getting the money, if I recall correctly. But you know, the music business. I'm not going to go on that tangent today, but I would love to meet her and just fan out over her because I loved Atlantic Starr. Slow Jam was Midnight Star, not Atlantic Starr. You're right. Midnight Star. Play another slow jam. I knew. Okay, I knew that actually. Anathema says Quiet Storm started in ATL with the first black-owned station. Fun fact. Word, I did not know that. Jason Wall says Albie Shore hosted a late-night Quiet Storm radio show like 30 years ago. Didn't know that either. KB Play, thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. Says WHUR in DC originated the Quiet Storm in 76. Word? Oh, wait, when did Smokey Robinson's song come out? Soft and warm, the Quiet Storm, because here in New York, that's the song they used to always end the Quiet Storm with. The Quiet Storm, Smokey Robinson, the same sample that De La Soul sampled that song. And I didn't know it started in 76 because the 70s had some dope slow jams as well, obviously. But I think the 80s was the decade of the slow jam really found its real niche. I mean, the 70s had great slow jams too. I would like to see that battle. I'd like to battle 70s slow jams versus 80s slow jams. I got my money on the 80s, but the 70s was tough too. 70s was tough. Thank you, KB Play. CJ Kid 231. CJ Kid 1231. I'm not seeing it clear on here. 231, 1231. I'm sorry. Thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. I really appreciate it. Says, hey, Kenny, I saw you on the PAL train a few weeks ago, but was afraid to say anything. Why? Yeah, I was on the PAL train a few weeks ago, actually. The PAL train going from Jersey to New York. Blame it on being shy and an introvert. But just wanted to say, great show, and you are awesome. Thank you so much. Next time you see me on the PAL train, please say what's up. I understand how you feel, though. I've seen people, and depending on their vibe, I may or may not say something. And I have walked up on people, and for the most part, I would say 90% of the time, if I seen an artist I like and I walked up to them and spoke to them, they were receptive. Maybe because most of the time they recognized me as well, but they were receptive. But there's like a small percentage of times that I walked up on an artist and showed them love, and they were very nonchalant or even standoffish. I'm not going to say any names. I have one that I did a whole story on this channel about 2 years ago. Y'all can go check that out. But please say what's up. Anybody that see me, I'm down. Anybody who watches this live, we a family here. This is the Kenny Parker Show. We do this every Tuesday and Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are a family here. Please, next time I see you, next time you see me, please say what's up. And this fool is on my channel for the second week in a row. Big said, what up, brother? Says T Money said, what's up? Oh, big up T Money from MTV. The whole PM Dawn incident with BDP was at T Money's birthday party. We ruined his party. Big up T Money. Big up my brother said, Big said. That's my brother though. Raj Justice said Trump would ask for the death penalty for Kermit Washington. Absolutely he would. And probably send a National Guard to an NBA game. Big says that he was on my show last week. A word? That's dope. Patrick Wise says Vaughn Harper also played basketball at Syracuse. Oh, I did not know that. That means he was pretty good. MMA says, what injury does Halliburton have? I saw he was injured, but he decided to play through it and had a bad game. You know, if Indiana does not win, that meme of Halliburton doing that really what I consider classless choke gesture is gonna, no pun intended, hang around his neck. I already saw people posting that after his game 5 performance. He's gonna have to live with that a long time. He's gonna be known for that now. When you do something like that, I think you got to go all the way. Def Rocket says, remember the group 5 Star? Yeah, it was like a whole family. Didn't they have, no, that was the Jets. I'm getting 5. You know, the 5 Star was a family too. But I got the Jets in my mind because I had Crush on You in my mind, but it wasn't the Jets. 5 Star was a whole family too. I remember them. KP, remember the slow jam set in the club as a DJ? What happened to that? I remember I've done slow jam sets at the end of the night that actually killed. Not that long ago, maybe like 9-10 years ago. If you're doing a party now, there's no slow jams. There's no slow jams now. If you listen to the what considered a slow R&B record right now, you listen to what they're saying. All the women are either talking about getting a dude for their money, or I'm tired of guys, that's why I left you. And they're not really talking about being in love. They're talking about a guy did me wrong and I'm done with him, or I'm taking some dude for their money, and they're just singing it slow. And all the guys are talking about how they don't love no girls and this is what I'll do to a girl. There's no love songs. So you couldn't even do a slow jam. So there's no slow jams. The love song is gone. Let's see. Dear Marasuti says, Life is Group is back with a new song. Word? I hope it's not some of the same guys who was there in the original Life is Group from the 90s, like early 90s. That was 30 years ago. But if you're a lifer, maybe if you're still alive. Are any of the original members in this new song? Life is Group also did Scared Straight. Remember when Scared Straight, the first one, came on TV in like 78, 79? And they was cursing on regular TV. It was the scariest thing I ever saw in my life, man. I was a kid watching that. It was terrifying. Henry Sedillo said Tears was a banger. Tears was a banger. Here We Go Again was a banger from Force MDs. Wasn't Tears in Crush Groove? I loved Love is a House. Love is a House was my record, man. Dre Stack Dollar says, I grew up with the lead singer Ready for the World's cousin in the 80s. He used to visit them. That's dope. With all them Jerry curls. Yo, Beyond the Matrix says, I like the slow jam Gentle by Frederick. That record was banging. And there's a whole story behind it. I believe Frederick did that record with his own money. He recorded that record with his own money and got a deal, I believe. The backstory is to Gentle. I'll Be Gentle. That's another great record. And that the man and women singing to each other, incredible. If somebody did Gentle over today, new artists, and these kids never heard it before, I think it would destroy right now. That's one of my favorites. Wow. Beyond the Matrix, that's a good one. I wasn't even thinking about I'll Be that was. Yeah, Ice Cold Beverage says Intimate Connection by Claire. Curious? Yeah, it's Intimate Connection, baby. Claire had like a disco record in '79 I like too. Was it Keep That Body Working? I Want to Get Next to You. Wow, y'all killing me. That's another one of my all-time favorites. First time I heard that song was watching the movie Car Wash. Remember when the fly was singing to that girl? He was trying to get a date with the waitress, and he sung I Want to Get Next to You. I thought that he was the real singer of that song. First time I heard it, I couldn't believe it. That's You're talking about one of my top 20 favorite records of all time right there. JT says, here's an 80s group that no one ever mentioned, Starpoint. Yeah, isn't that Object of My Desire? That girl passed away though, right? Didn't she have cancer? Poetry One says, I love Ready for the World as well. Ready for the World was my favorite group. Oh, Rhythm Blues says Curious was Midnight Star. So that's I'm curious about your loving. It's different than Intimate Connection, baby. Serious. Okay, they said Serious, Intimate Connection. That's clear. And Curious is Midnight Star. My bad. Okay. I got the two songs mixed up. Ridge says Carl Malone also tried to run up on Vanessa Bryant. Carl Malone, I'm not going to mention the stuff that he did on this channel, but if you go and look at his backstory, he was a real his personal life. By today, if he did what he did, if an NBA player right now did what he did back then, now it would be super viral. He would have to leave the league. Yeah, Corey Fuss says, no, Kenny, that's clear. Intimate Connection. Serious? I got Serious and I'm Curious mixed up. This is a tough question. Daniel the Don Freeman says, Yo, KP, in your humble opinion, who are the other MCs you feel on KRS-One's level of intelligence? Well, I mean, that's level of intelligence is a relative term. I mean, there's intelligent people who choose not to make conscious records. I would say, as far as making records, you'd have to look at the top conscious, deep thinking, because KRS-One has touched on just about every topic that you could possibly think of. I think he's very brave in that stance, that he has no fear in touching any topic and putting it out there. I think Chuck D is very intelligent, because you have to be intelligent and also be able to get that across to the masses. There's guys who had dope records, but it never really struck a chord. I thought Tupac could be very intelligent when he chose to be. I think Tupac is the most contradictory artist of all time. People say KRS is very contradictory. And I believe I can see where people say that, because he's always evolving in his opinion. So what KRS feels in 1990, he might have read a book or two, and in 94, he might, after reading this book, have a new idea and come with that, which might conflict with 1990. And people might say, well, you said this in 90, now you say this in 94. I believe that causes some of his contradictory label, and also being a top-notch battle rapper and a top-notch conscious rapper, really pioneering those two forms of those two styles. KRS-One is really at the forefront of both of those styles. You have to be contradictory to be a battle rapper and a conscious rapper at the same time. That and to have them both on one album, that's just a contradiction waiting to happen. But I say that I think Tupac is the most contradictory and complex rapper in that. I remember when I got the 12-inch single promo of Tupac, and on one side was "Keep Your Head Up," about Black woman empowerment and women empowerment in general. And one of his most touching songs. And on the other side was "I Get Around." I'm only in town for one night. What you gonna do? The video just had mad girls in a swimming pool. My man Money B was acting a fool. And I heard behind the scenes that video was wilder than what we saw in the video. Both of those records was on A side, B side of the 12-inch I got. And they both were massive hits. How could the same guy who made "Keep Your Head Up" also made "I Get Around," also made "Dear Mama," also made "Hit 'Em Up"? I think he was very intelligent. We're talking about on a level of intelligence of KRS. I think KRS once presented himself as the intelligent rapper, so I think he's right at the top of that. But I'd put Chuck, I'd put Pac. I've heard Wise Intelligence speak. He sounds very intelligent when he talks. Some guys are deep. Like, I don't know. Like, that's a real good question. Because some guys are deep, but I don't know. Like a Common, I don't know. I would put him Most Def as extremely intelligent guy in his lyrics and in his interviews. I put Most Def up there. Yasin, for sure. All right, let me move on because I'm falling behind. JT, thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. Hey, KP, shout out to Breakbeat Lou in the chat. Breakbeat Lou, who I keep saying all the time, we got to get him in this chat. I have so many questions for Breakbeat Lou, and I keep fronting. And when you're going to have him as a guest, that would be super dope. That'd be dope to have him next week. Breakbeat Lou, what up, man? For those that don't know, Breakbeat Lou was the person, one of the people responsible for putting out the Ultimate Beats and Breaks compilation albums. I believe there was 25 of them, I believe. And it really was the sound of the 80s, early 90s. When sampling started, so you got to figure from 86 to into the 90s and beyond, into the 90s, that was the sound. Whatever was on the new Breakbeat Lou, Ultimate Beats and Breaks. His contribution to hip hop music, rap music is immeasurable. Chris had 2 or 3 copies of all 25 of them in his house. I learned how to DJ using which I think is his most popular one, which would be the Impeach the President, the one with Impeach the President on it, the drum break. I learned to DJ using those 2 records. It'd be a pleasure and an honor to have Breakbeat Lou on the channel. Now, let's make it happen. Let's see. Henry Cedillo says Magic looks better and better every year. Now, I mean, they got the cocktail or whatever where you could, it's almost untraceable. The virus is untraceable in your body. That basically you don't have it. To the point where you can't even spread it because the levels are untraceable in your body. They literally found a cure for HIV. Not a cure, but if you could bring, I guess, the T cells, don't quote me on this because I'm not a doctor, but I believe if they bring the T cells level down to undetectable, then it can't be spread, right? Am I correct? But when Magic caught it in 91, there was nothing. Reggie Johnson, trust there's a lot of regular looking people with HIV. It's not just Magic, yeah. But Magic, look, Magic, we never saw Magic. Magic, in that time, Freddie Mercury had HIV, and we lost him. He was a huge rock star. Probably had more money than Magic. We lost him. We lost Easy. Probably lost a few others. Who else we lost in the early 90s around that time with Magic? And yet he beat it. Jamal Blackhead, thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. I really, really appreciate it. Hey, love your stories. My late uncle was Willie D. A word? He was such a character, always a real one. God rest his soul. That is the absolute truth. He was an absolute character. I spent more time with Willie D. Outside of his closest friends, I would have to argue that no one spent more time with Will than me in the decades that we were on the road touring with BDP. And me and Will I used to drag Will with me to so many concerts. Me and Will saw mad concerts together. I took Will to the Indiana Pacers game with me. My boy used to play for the Pacers. I can't remember, his last name was Green. He used to play for Iona. I can't remember his first name. I'm bugging. Green, he's from Queensbridge Projects. He used to play for Iona. He was on the Indiana Pacers, and he left me tickets to the Indiana Pacers game. And I saw him a couple years ago. How can his first name escape me? I'm so sorry, because that's my dude. I'm bugging right now. His last name was Green. He left 3 tickets for me to go when he was a rookie at Madison Square Garden to see the Indiana Pacers and the Knicks. And me, Heather B, and Will went to the to see the Knicks. But yeah, Will was I equate Will, and I say this to those that watch The Sopranos, Willie D was just like Paulie. If you're all familiar with The Sopranos, it was exactly like Paulie from The Sopranos. If KRS would be Tony Soprano, KRS's personality isn't really like Tony Soprano, but if Tony was the boss, Will would have been like Paulie, and my personality would be more like Silvio. Oh man, that's funny. But yeah, that was your uncle. Rest in peace. And I talk about Willie D all the time on this channel because A, he was a very important member of BDP. He was the backbone of the group. And 2, that was my friend. I just want people to know who he was and keep his name alive. So big up to Will. Henry Sedillo says, New Edition, Jealous. Jealous Girl was dope. New Edition had some bangers. Let's see. Oh, yeah, Marquise says Slick Rick returns after 26 years of the Victory album and storytelling. I have not yet got a chance to listen to Slick Rick's new album. I'm gonna put that on my to-do list. I want to hear what Slick Rick, how he's coming in 2025. Breakbeat Lou, what up? Kenny, we spoke about this before. Can't remember if you ever completed our conversation. What was the original BDP and the original members? Well, I did a whole breakdown on this channel. Who were the members of BDP? I did it about a year and a half ago for those that didn't see it. And I broke down my recollection of the original members of BDP. But I was not there for the original organization of the group. So I mean, the obvious KRS, D Nice, Scott LaRock, but there was other people. They weren't in BDP because it was Scott LaRock and the Celebrity 3 before BDP. And it was Jerry Levi, I believe, Castle D, I think, who just passed away, and KRS, I believe, was the Celebrity 3, something like that. And then Jerry Levi and Castle D and them, they branched off or did whatever. And then it was just KRS and Scott. They were 1241 on Sleeping Bag, and then Boogie Down Productions. But what was the original BDP and the original members? Chris always tells me that Scott LaRock came up with the name Boogie Down Crew. That was, Scott had Boogie Down Crew, and Chris said he added productions because he said they wanted to be more than just a rap group. They wanted to produce and put out other groups and be a record label owner. They had a whole plan. So Chris added the production. So Boogie Down Crew was Scott came with that name, and then Chris added productions. So I don't know if there's anything before Chris and Scott. I know Willie D was down with Chris and Scott before South Bronx came out. Will told me he used to drive Chris all around. Will had a Jeep, and he said he used to drive Chris all around. And Chris used to tell him, because his KRS is still in the shelter, and he used to tell him, "Stick with me, man. Stick with me. I'm going to be big. Stick with me. I'm going to be big." And he used to tell Will, "Just stick with him. He's going to be big." And he was in the shelter talking like this. So I know Will was down from the beginning. And there's manager Mo Scotty. I don't know when he came aboard, but I was not around. I mean, I was around, but I wasn't day to day in BDP then. So that's a good question. Breakbeat Lou, you got to come on, man. Your story is absolutely incredible. Corey Fuss says Sharon Bryan was the first woman singer of Atlantic Starr. She's on Circles. Yeah. That's who was on Circles. Let's see. Gregory Netta says, "Yo, Kenny, remember Kobe Bryant was going out with Brandy when he was a rookie? I remember Brandy asked him to go to the prom or something. I don't know if he was going out with her, but Kevin Rose says Freddie Jackson's the king of Quiet Storm. I would say Luther is the king of Quiet Storm. My opinion. Luther is the king. Freddie Jackson has some joints, though. There was a few people, like we talked about the groups. The individual king of the Quiet Storm has to be Luther. Teddy had some records, though. Teddy Pendergrass had some records, y'all. Teddy Pendergrass had some records. But his records are kind of late 70s into the 80s. He was like 77, 78, 79. I think, when did he have a car accident? Like 83? No, he had a car accident later in life. Now, when did he have the car accident? He had a car accident in 83. But before that, he was a problem too, Teddy Pendergrass. I'm trying to think of solo. I mean, DeBarge, but DeBarge was really a group. Prince had a few. Prince was in that mix too. International Lover and Do Me Baby and all that. Beautiful Ones. Don't sleep on the Purple One, man. I love this conversation. I could talk about the Quiet Storm all day. The equation says, right, Quiet Storm was invented by a sister who owns DC Black Radio. Forgot her name. So is DC or was it Atlanta? Terrence Hill said Stacey Laddersaw. She had a few. She had a few. Let Me Be Your Angel. Yeah. Yo, the 80s was, I've said this before on this channel. I would put the 80s up against any other decade. I will take the 80s. I will battle any other decade in music. I'll take the 80s. I think it all came together in the 80s. Stacey Lattisaw and Johnny Gill, perfect combination. That was my jam in 84. Oh. Patrick Wise says, KP, you should DJ a 70s, 80s slow jam party for us old heads who can't do the crazy moves no more. I'm one of them. That would be dope. I heard that who does a slow jam party? Is it DJ Spinner? Big up to my brother DJ Spinner. I heard once a month DJ Spinner does a slow jam party in New York, I believe. Big says Kenny is the easiest person to talk to despite his bad breath. See, this is how people get banned. Said we welcomed you on this channel, but you're a button away from from getting the gat. Let's see. Oh, Rosmel says Smokey's Quiet Storm was used to start the Quiet Storm show in New York, not end it, Kenny. Okay, yeah. Are you sure about that? It could be though. Nah, it could be. It could have been the beginning. I'll take that, Rosmel. If I'm wrong, it could have been the beginning. I thought it was the end of the night, but I'll take the beginning. You know what was ill about the Quiet Storm in New York? They used to play Moments of Love by Art of Noise. Remember that? That record was like 10 minutes long, no vocals, just a straight instrumental. And they used to play that on the Quiet Storm. It used to be dope. Art of Noise, Moments of Love. There's a whole story behind that too. Big up Trevor Horn, super dope producer that doesn't get mentioned. Oh yeah, okay. Quiet Storm started it off. Yo, how Smokey Robinson is caught up in a Me Too movement right now? Smokey Robinson is like 80. Tell me it isn't so. Corey Flood says, Kenny, tell the Milli Vanilli story. You want to hear it. All right, I'm going to do an epic fail on that this week. I forgot about that. Yeah, I got an interesting perspective on that Milli Vanilli situation. Let's see. Oh, crazy, got a name. Kathy Hughes is the brains behind the Quiet Storm format originally in the 70s. I did not know that because it didn't come to New York until 84, 83, I believe. Remember when you could just put on R&B or even like to set the mood? Like you set in the mood, like you had Candlelight, Candles, Wine, and Luther. And once you put Luther on, the mood was set. I always think to myself now, for the younger generation, how do they set the mood? Like, what is the mood setter? You put on TikTok and so, like, what? If you're having company, how do you set the mood for the younger generation? I know there's not anybody probably on this channel who's 21, but that I find that interesting. Jason Wall says 5-star were British, I think. Yeah, I think so. It was a whole family of them. One of them had braces, and they had like blonde hair, like reddish blonde hair. Rosmel said, let me be the one. Are you talking about Angela Bofield? Another Quiet Storm giant. She passed away just last year. I think she had 2 strokes and she could never sing again. What a beautiful voice. And there's a funny video with Angela Bofield, and I think it was the 84 Grammys or American Music Awards, and she presented Michael Jackson an award. And she's on stage, and Michael Jackson comes up, and I believe he gives her a kiss on the cheek, and he goes to the podium. Watch Angela Bofield behind him. She is losing it. She is turning red, and she really is blushing like she lost it when Michael Jackson kissed her. It's the funniest thing because she was a big star. She's on the stage. Like Michael Jackson's not really her peer, but the music business, these are your peers. No one's really a peer with Michael Jackson, but to see a established R&B star with gold records lose it when Michael Jackson kissed them, it's so funny. If you guys ever get a chance, look at Angela Bofield and Michael Jackson. It's mad funny. All right, I'm going to do our Benny Doyle scroll down. Is Benny Doyle in the building? MMA says, Say I'm Not Your Number One by Princess was banging. Say I'm your number one. I mean, y'all guys going to have, man, I'm going to get off of here and just start playing a bunch of slow records, bugging. Car Wash is arguably one of the best movie soundtracks. Yeah, it's right up there. Rolls Royce, I believe, did the whole soundtrack. Jason Wall says, so what was the first hip hop love song? Now, see, we're going to get into some controversy right here because I believe the one that changed the game, and we're going to get into game changing. Y'all going to get on me again because y'all don't be agreeing with me. But I believe that LL Cool J, I Need Love, changed the game. I believe that was the first hip hop love song as we know it. Before that, One Love, You're Lucky Just to Have Just One Love was kind of like that, but not really. It was a little more up-tempo. Before that, I can't even think of a love song. Dudes was just talking about how many girls they had. I mean, you had Waterbed Kevy Kev. That wasn't really a love song. And some people feel like MC Shan's Left Me Lonely. Some people say LL bit off of him. I don't know. But I know when LL dropped I Need Love, that was a huge record. And after that, there was a million love songs. And I think whole styles were made off of I Need Love all the way up until today. I think Drake's not whole career, but his R&B rap blend career can go all the way back to I Need Love. That is a game-changing record. Now y'all going to come in the comment section and y'all going to kill me, but I'm sticking to that. Oh, Reggie Johnson says Climax doesn't get mentioned enough. Yes. I Miss You was fire. Big up to Bernadette from Climax. I got to meet her and play some music for her, some beats for her, actually. Big up Bernadette from Climax. They had some controversy with their group, too. They was beefing for years. I forgot Climax. Man, we can talk. We could go on for days talking about slow jams. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not what I was looking for. I saw a chat. CMC's technique in class once again, as usual. Thank you so much. Says another underrated R&B legend, Barry White. He's hugely underrated. Barry White sold 100 million records worldwide and doesn't get mentioned at all. His song Secret Garden and other heavily sampled albums from the 70s that contributed. Oh, Secret Garden is from 89. And was it his song? Because that song was on Quincy Jones's, wasn't that song on Quincy Jones's album? So there was a bunch of people on there. DeBarge, Albie Shore, Barry White. Was James Ingram on there? Another slow jam legend. But he definitely had tons of records that got sampled by hip hop. Tons. Big records that was sampled by Barry White. Big up him and Love Unlimited Orchestra. Barry White was a straight thug too. They said he decided he was in jail at 16 and for doing a lot of crimes. And he decided in jail that he was never going back. And he decided to dedicate his life to music. And when he got out, he never went back. Imagine a gigantic talent like that sitting in jail. I see some people answering a question about intelligent. Mo D has a college degree. I don't know if his records are really like that, but yeah. X-Clan, I wouldn't put them on KRS like that. No disrespect. X-Clan was dope, but KRS level, KRS's subjects, you got to look at the subject matters and how deep he got into it with certain songs, man. Corey Flesh says, Lord Jamar is the most intelligent rapper ever. Prove me wrong. I will not. And Athema says, and I Call Your Name by Switch is a classic. Absolutely. Big up to the first DeBarge brother who tragically OD'd. And then El DeBarge picked up the torch, but he was the first DeBarge brother from Switch. They still play that record, man. Immortal Technique is on Chris's level. I don't know. Let's see. MF Doom could get on KRS level. Maybe. I mean, it's all a matter of opinion. We just talk, there's no way to, prove it or measure. The God is very intelligent. Rakim, very intelligent. John Wall says, contradictory is Dr. Dre. He went from I don't smoke weed or cess from Express Yourself to Mr. Chronic 3 years later. That is extremely contradictory, but at the same time, Dre doesn't write rhymes, so who knows who wrote Express Yourself? I believe DLC was writing his rhymes on the Chronic. So maybe the DOC was smoking in the Chronic, and whoever wrote the rhymes for Express Yourself wasn't. But that's a huge contradiction. I mean, I'm sure there's a few. I mean, we go through history, we can find some artists who really contradicted themselves. Markeith Bankroll says, Master Ace went to college. Yes, he went to Rhode Island with my boy who I played high school basketball with, Carlton Silk Owens, the best player I ever played with. Possibly. Shout out to my man Silk from Lincoln High School. He went to school with Master Ace. Just because you went to college does not make you intelligent, though. I know a few people in college that I can't believe was in school. I literally cannot believe. Corey Flush says, Lord Jamar knows everything about everything. Oh my God. Ah, Killer Mike is a very intelligent speaker. I don't know if his music is really like that. I haven't really listened to his latest stuff. He just won Grammys and everything. I haven't really listened to his latest music, so I don't know what his subject matter is like. But when I hear him speak, he is very intelligent and an activist too. Big up Killer Mike. Eye of the Phoenix, KP, what up? What up? Shantae Moore loves taking over. That's I would consider that 90s R&B, but 90s R&B, but yeah, Shantae Moore was dope. I consider that more 90s. Rod Justice says, Wise Intelligence is dope, but not a very friendly person. Oh, Dan Marasuti says, greetings to Breakbeat Lou. Absolutely. Patrick Wise says, Professor X from X Clan. I don't know what he ever said that was, and y'all gonna think I'm hating on X Clan. I don't know what Professor X ever said that was actually that intelligent. Like, I don't know if what he ever said that made me go, wow, I never thought it. I never knew that. Like, wow, he really said something that I gotta go look this up. Or he touched on a subject no one ever touched on before, and it was a hit. Genius to Jizza is he does lectures on math, like quantum physics or something, right? Doesn't the Jizza do lectures on quantum physics? He might really be a genius for real, for real. All right, I'm falling behind, y'all. Let me scroll down and jump in right here. Henry Cedillo says, even Betty Wright and Stephanie Mills have some bangers in the 80s. Stephanie Mills was incredible in the 80s. I saw Stephanie Mills on the Breakfast Club. She was mad hood. I wasn't ready for Stephanie Mills to be that hood. Jamal says, whenever KRS is on here, it should be 3 hours long. First of all, KRS might answer 2 questions and it might be 3 hours long. I had to go there with Chris. VK says, original Quiet Storm format started at Howard University. Kathy Hughes, why does that name Kathy Hughes sound familiar? And her husband Dewey were the leaders of Black commercial radio in DC. They should get more credit for that because that was huge for a while. JT says, DJ Spinner is a bad boy DJ. He's possibly one of the most versatile DJs around. Yes. And a great guy, too. That's my dude. Big up DJ Spinner, man. That's one of my guys, man. Oh, Mike Rock, 25 says Sade ruled the 90s with Anita Baker a close second, or them being, yeah, man. Sade had a lot of smooth records, even into the 90s. And he said, Anita Baker's first 2 albums was The Quiet Storm. That first Anita Baker album. First of all, Angel from her 1980 album was a Quiet Storm classic for years. I never even knew who sung that. And then, and isn't the guy, okay, let me get this right. Mike, who put up the money for Death Row, also was in the music business and put up the money for Anita Baker's first album. The guy, Mike, who sued Death Row and Suge, saying he was a co-founder of Death Row while he was still in prison, also put up the money for Anita Baker's first album with the song Angel on it, which is one of the most beautiful records ever. And then Anita Baker's album in 86 was just, every single song on there was a classic. I was fortunate enough to see Anita Baker perform 2 years ago in New Jersey at the Prudential Center, and she was dope. Killed it. Let's throw Minnie Riperton in there real quick too, since we throwing in just dope slow jams. Patrice Rushen. Did she have a slow jam though? Because Feel So Real was like in between. I don't know if Patrice Rushen had a slow jam. She was great though. Kenny, you should do a Quiet Storm show. I think I would kill it. Rusty says, yeah, Smokey's song was in the beginning. Okay, Smokey was in the beginning. Okay, I was wrong, but I knew it was in there somewhere. Tina Marie, Giant. We're at an hour and a half, y'all. Damn. I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom and just see the last comments, and then I'm going to. What about Donny Hathaway? He had a couple records with, his biggest records were with Roberta Flack, but he's a giant. Green Town says Anita Baker's first album came out in 83, not 80. Are you sure about that? The one with Angel came out in 83? I could be wrong. I don't have any information in front of me. This is off the top of my head. But I thought that first album with Angel came out before that, before 83. I didn't realize how many R&B artists were there in the 80s were from overseas. Yeah, it was like the second British invasion. A lot of those dance records were coming. They're like, they call it, I hate the term one-hit wonder. I hate that term, but I'm going to use it right now. One-hit wonders were from overseas. Jason Wall says she was fly, haircut like Anita Baker. Big up at PMD, and Anita Baker hated rap too. Shinehead is KRS Blueprint. He said it himself. Yes. KRS was heavily influenced by Shinehead, among others. Big up Shinehead. We did a few shows with Shinehead. All right. Terrence Hill, what up, man? Says X-Clan is protected by the red, black, and green was because KRS was saying fresh for 88, you suckers. I could believe that. Looking at the history of X-Clan and BDP, I could see a lot of what they were doing with jabs at us. I did a whole breakdown on the X-Clan BDP conflict on this channel. For those that didn't get a chance to check it out, please check it out. I did a whole breakdown. It was a whole big beef with BDP and X-Clan that was resolved peacefully, thankfully. But that was a serious one, by the way. That's one of the most serious ones we ever had. So yeah, they were taking mad jabs at us. And I read Paradise from X-Clan has a book out. Big up Paradise, who used to run the Latin Quarter. And he says the beef started because of BDP said something on stage when X-Clan was there, which I think is complete bullshit. One day, if I get a chance to talk to Paradise, I would love to. That's bullshit. I was reading his book and he got some whole story about how they came on the stage and all that stuff. And I was like, the stage that I was on? I don't remember no shit like that. I'm calling bullshit on that, but it's in his book. Get Paradise's book if you like X-Clan. It's all about X-Clan. All right, we're at an hour and a half, so I'm going to jump off. This is the Kenny Parker Show. We do this every Tuesday and now Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank y'all once again for coming on. And big up to the Rewind crew. who's going to check this out later on. Thank you guys for the super chat. Some people saying do a Quiet Storm episode. We should we should call this the Quiet Storm episode. We didn't even really get deep because we could get deep on Quiet. I loved Quiet Storm. So I'm always down for that. I loved R&B, man. I feel, people said hip hop is dead. I'm saying that R&B is looking up at hip hop going, damn, I wish I was like you. If you think hip hop is dead, R&B is cremated. It's so over. Gregory Ness says, hey, watch your mouth, Kenny, no cursing. I try not to curse on this show, but some things require a curse, and I think that did. I'm going to leave it on this. GF4L says, we out of here, Jive Turkeys. We got to leave on Jive. We're going to leave on Jive Turkey every week. So big up to the Rewind crew. Lord willing, I'll catch you guys on Friday, 8 p.m. And I'm going to play this beat tape that I found from 1991. The beat tape that I played for KRS. And he picked 2 beats off of there for the Sex and Violence album. And there was some other beats on it. I don't even think I got to play for Chris, but I was hearing there was some other stuff on it. I'm just going to play it so you guys could just get a feel. I got to put batteries in my radio. But I'm going to catch you guys next week. I'm going all the way to the bottom. I'm going to the last piece. Big up to the Rewind crew. All right. All right, I'm going to leave that comment right there. We out of here, Jive Turkeys. I'm going to leave it just like that. I'll catch you guys on Friday.